Greetings, I am Stereophile contributing editor Ken Micallef, and I am here today with Stereophile managing editor Mark Henninger behind the camera, and we are at the incredible VPI house here in New Jersey, which has amazing history and is just an astounding place of equipment and records peering out of every corner. They kind of grow. It's just an astounding place. But we're here with VPI founder Harry Weisfeld and VPI CEO and current president Matt Weisfeld before his children take over.
Hey, they're going to fire me one day.
There you go. And as part of our Icon series. And if any company in audio is an icon or an iconic status, it is the VPI Industries. So welcome, guys.
Oh, thank you, Ken. It's great to be here.
Yes, well, it's great to be here. You're always here, but
I know, right? It's a good place to, when you have a job of listening to music, someone's got to do it. It's a tough job.
I've never been here before. It's an astounding place. And so we want to cover on some upcoming products, perhaps, and the history of the company, get deep into turntable design and other things. But right off the bat, Matt, are there any new products in the offing from VPI Industries?
Sure. Well, so Ken, we're a little shy of being able to give all the information on that. But to me, the big thing is a lot of companies, they like to reinvent themselves. And that's cool. There's got to be an evolution. I've taken the reins. It's been about 10 years since the Prime series. But there's that founder mentality. There's my mom and dad, they worked really hard. They did a lot of great things. And from that, I guess you could say we're going to be looking a little more to our roots and things that we've done on those classic type of turntables and whatnot. And I really just love anything that's modular. Anything that, you could start in one model and just grow with your product. Because a lot of companies, it's like, okay, here's the first model. What do I got to do to get the second one? Well, you got a mortgage on your house, and then maybe you can upgrade to that after you sell off this one. That's a lot of work. So we're looking at going back to our roots, let's just say, for the future, and you'll be able to see a lot of stuff. Well, actually, you might be seeing something sooner than later, to get a first look at, but who knows?
That would be very exciting. What does VPI stand for?
Virginia Polytechnical Institute. No, I'm a Virgo, and I had no idea what to name the company. And Harry Pearson said, well, why don't you call it Virgo? I said, Virgo? VPI. And then we had to incorporate, so it became Industries. So it was VPI-I, actually, but it's VPI.
What does the P stand for?
Virgo Products.
Oh, yeah.
Virgo So this was kind of wild.
It was kind of wild.
And and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Dad, but Mom didn't even know what the VPI stood for when she went to incorporate it.
Right.
So my mom, Sheila Weisfeld, she had went to incorporate it and didn't know. So technically, our company, little fun tidbit now, it's Virgo Product Industries Inc. So
wow.
Yes, because I was already in the sheet metal business. And this was like, yeah, I'll do this. What the heck? I'll play around with this thing, blah, blah, blah. And it turned out to be a business.
How many turntables since the inception in 1978 do you think you all have sold around the world?
Well, when Matt took over, it was about 200,000 customers, and now it's more than 500,000 customers.
Across the world?
Across the world.
Wow. What's the, besides the U.S., what's your best market?
Well, from a volume standpoint, that's more of a complicated question because of what the changes we made about 10 years ago, the United States market, I feel, was our main market.
70%.
70%. And then, I don't know, I want to say like 10% Europe, 20% Asia.
Yeah.
It's and so in the Asian market, but that's where we'd see more of the high-end tables, at least now. I'm not sure about back then, but I believe even back then, when you had your HRX tables, your TNTs, those are more than likely going to like Hong Kong, Thailand. Our guy Ernest Lau.
A lot of TNTs went to Hong Kong.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ernest sold a lot of TNTs.
And since the rough beginning of the vinyl resurgence, which I clocked around 2008, how has that changed the market for your turntables?
Well, it actually began earlier.
Yeah?
Began when Classic Records began making records.
Like Hobson.
In the mid-'80s, it began to roll down. But what was really nice is other companies left. So the pie, we just got a larger piece of the same pie. We didn't lose anything because they disappeared. Technics left the market. Garrard left the market. Thorens left the market. And then, of course, when there was money to be made, they ran back in as good entrepreneurs and money-grubbing people. They came right back in again.
Right.
He's
They didn't
retired.
stay there.
He can
I
say
can
this.
say
You
whatever
can
I
say
want.
this.
They didn't stay there when times were tough. They ran away, and then they came back.
When were times tough? What years were those?
Well, I was at a CES show, and an amplifier maker said to me in the elevator, this is 1988, what are you going to do when records are all gone? I said, well, I'll do something. And of course, we sold a lot more stuff than he ever sold, so records never went away. They just never went away.
But what do you think, and this wasn't one of my original questions, but what do you all think has kicked off this huge, like if nothing else, every record in the world is being reissued. There are new companies involved in reissuing records. So you must have seen a sales bump from all that.
Must have been 15 years ago. The London Times goes to a British record store.
This is cool.
And there's kids in there. And they ask the kid, why are you buying records? And the kid says, because now I actually have something. I can read it, I can hold it, I can feel it, I can trade it.
I can read it,
Yeah,
trade it.
yeah.
You
I don't
actually
have
own
anything
it.
the other way.
Because when it's digital, when you have, whatever, like Qobuz, and hey, you have great streaming services, but what if suddenly things change? All of a sudden, you just lost your whole library. Whatever it might be, that record. I mean, I just shared my Red Hot Chili Peppers album that I bought, I don't know, 15, 20 some odd years ago. I shared that with somebody yesterday, and I was able to tell them the story about where I was, what I did, and everything for that album.
I can always play this record.
Yep.
No one can take it away, and I probably have a couple of copies of it. It's mine.
Yeah. And also in general, I feel there's a cool factor of having that record, being able to talk about it. No one's taking their, and again, no offense to the digital services and streamers out there, but no one's saying, hey, I just got this great digital album over here. They're saying, oh, I got this new reissue of whatever the title is. And then what do we all do? We've done it. We've done it right here. We take the original, we take the reissue, we listen, we go back and forth, we hear different artifacts.
All the time.
And it's exciting. I find it exciting, and especially, be able to do it with my dad, especially when it's the stuff where it's like, I got that record. I bought that in the 60s.
Well, this place has so many, like I said, so many amazing records in stands. It's mind-blowing. This place is a real mind-blower. So your first product was a record weight, then the cleaning machine, then an isolation base, and then the turntable, which was the HW19 in 1982. Why a turntable then? Was something missing in the market as far as you were concerned? Or?
Well, wasn't missing. I just liked a certain... I had a lot of turntables. Thorens, Garrard, AR.
Well, I just got to hold off there, Dad. He still has them. They're in the basement, so.
Well, you've seen them.
Reco cuts. And Empires.
Fairchild.
And Fairchild.
He's leaving his grandchildren a lot of cool toys.
Unbelievable.
I really like the sound of an AC motor. I just like that because, as one engineer said, an AC motor knows where it is, a DC motor knows where it was. It's a big difference because a DC motor is always catching up. An AC motor, it's set at, let's say, 300 RPMs. If it's 299, it doesn't run. It runs at 300 RPMs.
Right.
That's it, locked on, and your 60 hertz is usually fairly good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it used to be, but it's still great. But you could stick on a 60 hertz generator. Even PS Audio makes them. You stick that on there, and that motor is locked on. 300 RPMs or 600 RPMs.
So when the HW19 came out at AC motor, there weren't many AC motor turntables then?
It was difficult. The Japanese were coming into the market with their DC motors. There was still the AR, but the thing had a little clock motor. no power.
Right.
And the Lynn, no insult to Lynn, but it was a little AC motor, no power. I like a motor that when I stick my hand on the turntable, it doesn't stop. Because when it hits that drum, it's got to keep going.
Right.
It can't slow down. So that's the reason I did it.
And so all the VPI tables have AC motors?
AC motors.
Well, on the higher side, on the higher end side, we have the BLDC motors, but that's where then you have to get into the electrical engineering aspect.
But that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because we take a BLDC motor and we run it as a 3-phase AC motor.
Yeah, which is also true.
Yeah, I know you were going to tell them that, but I just had to get that out.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so exciting.
This is why I like to have them around over here. It keeps it, and to me that kind of goes to the essence of VPI in the sense of we're a family business and we just love doing this stuff and everything together.
Yeah, and that comes across in everything you do on social media, even here. I mean, to have a brand that has a separate facility just for fun, really, that's what this is about. I mean, anybody who comes here and does a little tour of this place, their minds will be blown. It's just shocking. You walk around, you're kind of bewildered, all the things that Harry has to show and all the gear and the records, and it's just really something. So 82 to 2024, this is like 40 years.
45 coming up on.
45. How have your goals for turntable design changed through the years?
Well, for that's from the larger picture standpoint of the consistency. Dad, and I love it. He's an inventor. He's always creating, and we need that. And I give him that canvas, whatever he wants to do. Like, even though I've taken over and whatnot, there's been no change. There is no Dad, get in the truck. No, I want Dad on the lathe. I want Dad.
I love being on the lathe.
Oh man, he shows me pictures of different lathes. Like, oh, let's get this. I can do X, Y, and Z. And 9 times out of 10, like, that sounds exciting.
Huh.
Because and the other thing is we all need purpose. And I love that purpose with my dad, with what he's creating and everything. But from the evolution of VPI, I felt for us to grow and, frankly, to make my life easier, more consistency. When I first looked at, you had the Scout, the Classic, and I think it was the TNT. I might be wrong on it, but we had
the HRX.
The HRX at that point. And we had a small bearing, a medium-sized bearing, and a long bearing. But then when I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute. We're thinking X amount of this, X amount of that, X amount of these. But if we add an adapter and whatever it is, we could just do the middle one. So instead of having 3 SKUs, make thousands of one. And then having that consistency, that reliability. I mean, then there's still the reliability of it, but having that point where a distributor can order 10 VPIs and there is no, oh, this one's really cool. We have because they don't really care. And not that they don't care, they don't want to have a surprise or a struggle. Right. And then by having that higher level of consistency, lean manufacturing, and just the extra redundancies, you have more quality control and you have a better product. Because now if every single one of them has to be that length in the bearing, that type of shaft in the, whatever the component is, then you can just account for that. Our motors, I don't know what the QC was back in the day. It was probably Dad checking it and, it's good. Let's fire it out there. It goes through 3 steps before it even sees a motor housing. So all these things from the consistency factor. So the big evolution is just to make it so it's much easier and consistent from a build standpoint, much more consistent from in the home. And just, I like it out of the box.
Right.
I don't want you to have to struggle and have to be a rocket scientist to set up your turntable.
There's something else also. I used to order 100 of everything because after I make 100 of something, I like to change it a little bit. My brain's working. I got
to keep them in check.
Matt buys 2,000 platters. No change.
There's about 1,000 downstairs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
2,000 platters. And this way, the customer really saves a lot of money.
Huh.
And it's consistent, and they're exactly the same, all of them.
And the other thing is also, and I'm going to mention my mom again. There's a poem that she really loved called "The Man in the Looking Glass." And it's about the idea of you can please everyone in the world, but if you can't please that person you're looking at, what are you doing? I feel we're one of the few companies that when we make an advancement, we lower the price. Our 3D arm, when we launched it, I think it was like $8,000 or $6,000. I don't even remember. But from the volume, and once we increased that, we got the price down. Now I only run the company. I don't know what I'm doing. No, but I want to say it's about $3,000. No, I'm sorry. Our Fat Boy, the highest level of it, is $4,000. Now that's a lot of money. But we were able, through consistency, through better operations and whatnot, we were able to get the volume, get the prices, get the quality.
And let me toss in one more thing. Because I am retired, I can say these things. I don't care. There should be no tone arm in the world that costs more than the Fat Boy. None. Zero. Zip. None. If it's more than that, they either have no idea how to make it or they're ripping you off. Because the way to make a product is to take all the parts, add it up, and multiply it by 5.
Yep.
Not by 50, by 5. And that's the way manufacturing runs.
And still does at VPI. That's what Mom and Dad always did. And I'm sure there's someone out there saying, no, Harry, don't tell them. No, we're transparent about it. Because,
I don't care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't open up a magazine and read about something that's $90,000, and I know it costs $4,000 to make it. I know. I know what the parts cost.
Right.
I was in the sheet metal business. I know what sheet metal costs. I know all these costs.
We're going right there, Ken. We're going right there.
Really, really into it. With the people I know. And there's a whole bunch of audio people here in New Jersey, Philly, New York. And we talk about this. And sometimes we don't care that it costs that much money because it's that good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something else. If it's that good, okay. Whatever you did in there, it's like magic. Most of the time, it's not magic.
As far as the evolution of turntable design, have you responded to customers about specific things that have affected the design that
100%.
customers wanted to see, such as?
One of the big ones was the Prime 21. Because the Prime, and that was my first table. That I feel was the table that I wasn't making it for the world. I was kind of making it for Dad to show him, don't worry, we're in good shape over here. And when I made that table, it was really good. That was the table. I mean, I think it was great. We got lots of great reviews. We sold thousands of them. But we got a lot of feedback. And we ended up taking the feedback from both the customers, the reviewers, the dealership.
Right.
And that's what made us develop the Prime 21. The Prime 21 is a refinement of an existing table. Because if you tell me, well, Matt, I don't like these feet because whatever it might be. And if I disagree with you, well, no, Ken, that's not what we designed it for. And here's why. If I can't give you the here's why, then I should listen to you because it's going to make an improvement. And the things that we had an issue with the Prime was, the big one was the unipivot. And it's no secret that our design's been unipivot for the longest time. And sonically, if it's a gun to the head, you need the greatest sound right now, I'm still picking unipivot.
Me too.
Why?
It sounds better. To me.
Sounds free.
Yeah.
Just sounds free.
But I use a gimbal at home. I use a gimbal here. All of our tables come with a gimbal. Why? Because unipivots, and Dad, you can speak more to it, unipivots are really difficult to set up. They're really difficult to use at home. And I still remember, it was about 10 years ago, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, my wife, Jane, and we were all hanging out, and someone had a little too much wine and went to go grab the unipivot.
Oh, yeah.
And came this close to wiping a Lyra Atlas. $10,000 cartridge because of the unipivot. Since having the gimbal in the line, customer service issues, out the window. It's no problem. No issues with standard stuff, alignment jig questions, whatever.
Yeah. But that's normal.
Yeah.
Unipivots. And the other thing is the average customer age is going up. A lot of customers shake.
Yeah.
Unipivot's very difficult to use.
We've done a lot of trade-ins for friends of ours.
But to be honest, in my living room, I've got a unipivot.
Yeah. I've got kids, so they're all gimbals.
First interaction I ever had with VPI, I had a 16.5, and I was having, I don't remember what the exact trouble was, but I called in, and that's when I believe your wife was answering the phone. And I sent it in, and that's long before I wrote for Stereophile, and I forgot what was wrong with it. But they sent it back, and it had been entirely rehauled. I mean, totally. It was like a brand new machine again. And that told me about the level of customer care you have. And I'm happy that I was able to speak to your mom, your wife. That was such personal interaction. So tell me how your cleaning machines have evolved through the years.
Well, that's kind of wild because the 16.5 hasn't. Same animal, same everything. Every time we try to make that better, all we're doing is we're adding cost to it. And I shouldn't say that because we did. It evolved in the sense of us
Built
making
a little better now.
Yeah. We've gotten better at what we do. Now it does actually. Yeah, it's
CE.
Yeah.
UL.
Yeah. So to sell internationally, and I get companies who ask me. Yeah. They'll ask me, "Hey Matt, what do you do to sell overseas?" And I tell them, "Don't," because if you want to properly sell overseas without having any issues in a given country, you have to get CE approval. You pretty much have to take your product.
What's CE?
CE is just the certification for overseas. So because you have CE, UL, REACH, and all these other ones. Right. I mean, my wife and I had to fly down to Georgia. That's where one of our VPI partners is at. It's a testing facility. We went down there to blow up a prime. Literally, they needed the system. So I'll tell you, I used sorry guys if you're listening to this, I blew up your stuff. I brought a pair of KEF LS50s. I brought a PS Audio Sprout, and then used whatever cable, because you have to, if you want to do it right, you have to actually recreate the situation. And so we set it up with I think an Autophon cartridge at the time. We set up at the testing facility, and it was like the saddest thing. Like Jane and I we visited a friend of mine and everything. We put it down there. I'm like, wow, I just set up a system to be destroyed.
What do you mean destroyed? What did you do?
They do all the testing. They hit it with lightning. They, they
hit it with everything.
Yeah, heat. Yeah. Oh yeah. We pay people to blow up our stuff to make sure that it's, and going back to the cleaning machine and all of our product. When you do that, I mean, you may not pass. There may be things like every VPI motor now has a board in it. You go back 30 years ago, it's wire nuts. Wire nuts are a lot cheaper, easier, and user-friendly.
Right.
But the board we put in there, it's safer. It's cleaner. And now you open up a motor, it looks like NASA did it. Oh, yeah. I like to think so.
Yeah, you can't kill the customer.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
That's bad. It's a bad thing.
It's bad to kill the customer.
Harry, you would, I'm sorry.
No. UL is, what they really do is they take the turntable and they disintegrate it, and they check for chemicals in there that you can't have, like lead, like cobalt, like, there was something else, hexavalent chromium.
A decade ago,
we actually look for that stuff.
Yeah, we got dinged on a small piece. It had 0.001%
chromium.
Yeah, and one of those things, and we had to change it. We did because
it was on a screw head.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here we are, like, what the heck? Nonetheless, I don't like to have problems. I don't like my distributors and dealers to have problems, or the customers. That's why I do feel it's worth doing that stuff. And when you do that, when you make things right, you just naturally raise the quality and performance by having the 16.5 now has a fan. The tank is made, I think, better than ever. As far as just the advancements with technology and the molding we do behind it, just all the little processes. Yeah. So even though I say it's the same product, a lot more refined and more precise.
And there's another cleaning machine above the 16.5?
Yes, that's where we have the Cyclone. The Cyclone is the same animal, but bidirectional and whatnot. That's made for the record store, who's going to clean 1,000 records in a day.
What's the difference between the two?
Just more robust. It's a metal casing. Again, the bidirectional motor, so it does do a better clean. How the tank works in the sense of its drainage and whatnot. And it just makes it so that if you're cleaning records, if you're cleaning like, 50, 100 a day, you're fine with a 16.5. But if you're doing like thousands and it's a real workhorse, then that cyclone's made to be a workhorse. One of the funny situations Dad had, this is before my time, but we always talk about it. A customer called and said that his 16, not 0.5, was leaking. That he's cleaned the records, and my dad's just like, what the heck's he doing? But at the time though, they only had a sponge. Dad just had a sponge because he made it for himself. So the guy's talking to them, Harry's like, how many records are you cleaning? Oh, I'm a record store. I clean 500 records a day. It's like, oh my God, you're overloading the sponge. So he had to invent the tank.
The tank to go in there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought normal people were going to buy these things. They clean 1, 2, 3 records a day. No.
And it's funny. I still get people who we won't go down the spin clean route. Harry, there was a rumor a while ago that you were working on an ultrasonic machine.
Oh, yeah, but then I found out that you could actually buy one that you can't compete with. And it's made in America even, this one. It's variable frequency. It'll run for 50 years, this machine. I've got one in my house. And it does an incredible job. But you have to have a thing to rotate the records.
Right.
The ones they make for this job, they're a lot easier to use. Yeah. Let's be honest. But you know me, I have to build something. So I built the thing to hold the records. I made all this stuff.
The jeweler's tank, the original thing, and
I got about 6 of those over the years. But then I found this
actually.
other company in Wisconsin that makes this amazing ultrasonic machine. I could get you the info. I don't have it in my head.
Well, and the thing is also the price, because when we were looking at it, if we were to make it retail, that was going to be like a $4,000 unit. Wow. Now, we had dealers say, oh, $4,000, that's fine. That's not fine for us.
Huh.
What Harry ended up doing on our forum, and unfortunately it's been gone, you got to rewrite it and put it up there.
Oh, that was amazing.
He had a whole
70 pages long.
It was unbelievable. How to do it yourself.
How to
save
clean
the money.
records.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That. We recovered some of it, but technology isn't always the best.
Yes, that's why we buy records, because you never lose it.
Yeah, we got upgraded by our service provider. It was a whole thing where they moved our site from one server to another. It's half our fault because we just never updated the back end of our forum. So when they moved our server, killed our forum. So.
Oh, jeez.
But just gives you something to do on the weekends now. We can bring it back to life there, Dan.
But a major turntable manufacturer, when you want part of that market, you already make a cleaning machine. I tell people you have to have a vacuum machine and an ultrasonic machine if you really want to do it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want a part of that market?
Well, I look
you
at
got enough to do, I guess.
Well, not even that so much, but Dad mentioned about the bean counters. That's not us. If you can do it for a better price, and honestly, if we can manufacture it for a better price, I'll do it. If I know that there's a way, hey, Ken, if you do X and Y and Z, it's going to cost you $700. I don't want to be the guy that comes out with a $4,000 unit.
My system that I use is about $750.
Yeah.
It'll last forever. It will never break.
Yeah.
And it's got a 0.5 micron filter on it.
If I can figure out how to do it for $2,000 retail, that to me at least is close enough in the sense of the refinement, the machinery, all of that. But at 4, I like that we have the vacuum side. We've got the 16.5. We've got the Cyclone. Actually, I shouldn't say this, but we're looking back at the Typhoon with the pump and whatnot, because that was a great unit.
That was a great machine.
I would rather make a better vacuum because even a better vacuum is going to be attainable. Hey, we're talking in front of a $36,000 turntable. But if we were to sit there and do the bill of material, we can account for every piece that's in that.
Wow.
So if we can get you a decent mousetrap at a better price, I'd rather send you that way, save the money, and buy a better turntable or buy more records.
Harry, is your so it's sort of a DIY thing you have at home?
Yes.
Do you have like the tank and the filter and the thing that spins the records? Do you feel like that cleans also ultrasonically as good as any ultrasonic cleaner?
Let me put it to you this way. I take the records, I record them at 24,192, and I bring them to the show. And Kef used my USB stick at the Munich show, and the people were sitting in the room listening to Frankie Lane like this. That's how good it is. Yeah.
After you ultrasonic those records.
Yes. And vacuum it afterwards.
Right.
Because you got to get the water off. You can't let it air dry. You must get the water off.
On your, and not to go down the cleaning rabbit hole, but I guess I am. And I know you have your own VPI fluid to use with the 16.5. And I guess you can't tell me what's in that.
It's what Catalano from, oh God, my memory. Last.
Okay.
Last factory. It's the same thing that they made.
Well, some modifications because, again, from an international standpoint, what we tell everybody is
you have to change things.
Yeah, and we get messages. Not so much anymore. We'd get messages. They're so lame. These guys would reach out saying, "Oh no, Matt, my kid just drank a whole bottle of cleaning machine fluid. The doctor needs to know the exact specifications." Are you kidding? And then I tell them the same thing because the truth is that if you were to drink a bottle of that, you're going to have the runs for a couple of days, but you're going to be fine.
It's not going to kill you.
Yeah, I tell him this. It's like, no. The doctor says he needs to know the exact measurement. Yes. I'm like, really, man? There's no alcohol in it. It's safe, and it can be shipped all over the world. So all the accommodations we made since last was just to make it so, again,
you can't ship
international.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
Huh. They don't want you to ship alcohol.
Right.
This is after 9/11.
Right.
Cannot ship alcohol.
Yeah. No fluids.
So we had to modify a little bit.
And do you just use, just straight distilled water in your ultrasonic cleaner?
Yeah, distilled water and, well, I actually use a 0.5 micron filter that I had a plumber make. And I use that water, which comes from this huge bottle of distilled water that I get. So it's always circulating like that.
Huh.
And it's incredibly clean.
Interesting.
He's a little crazy, but in all the right ways.
You got to be crazy.
Well, you only do it once, right. And then it works for 20 years.
Exactly. When a turntable or tone arm is being developed, what stages from design to production are involved? How many iterations do you go through, and what is the listening process for the prototypes? I guess that's a two-part question.
That's funny because we're doing that now.
It begins on a napkin, usually over lunch.
Yep.
And a pen. And you begin to draw stuff out. That's how 90% of this stuff was made.
The 3D arm, actually, when we first did that, we were having a corned beef sandwich over at Harold's.
Yes.
This was the funniest thing because at the time, the arm that Dad was trying to make at the time would eventually be the Fat Boy gimbal. But we weren't there yet. We were having some struggles and whatnot. And so he was focusing on that. And while eating the corned beef sandwich, I'm like, Dad, why don't we 3D print the thing? And I'm like, and that's just like, that's not a bad idea. And from there, again, that's what I love because we'll throw stuff at each other. We'll be, at Perkins and saying stuff. It's like, oh, let's try that. Oh, let's try that. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it just is an exciting adventure that leads nowhere. But we had a lot of fun doing it.
You know what the main thing is? I said this earlier to you. The main thing is, we've got the reference.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have an original master tape copy, take 5, Brubeck. I play Brubeck here. I play Brubeck here. That has to sound like this. Because this sounds... This is an Ampex, ATR 102. This is the same thing Chad uses when he mixes records. And in fact, Chad got me this.
Oh.
He called them up and he said, make Harry one of these machines.
I think that was one of the last ones, right?
This is one of the last ones before he passed away, the original owner there. And this will reproduce take 5 here like you're in the room with them. And this has to do it too. And that's how we do the listening. But there's all these other issues. There's the cartridge matching. There's the vinyl. I know everybody wants thicker vinyl. You play an original Brubeck, 1960s, on the thin little, it sounds unbelievably good. It's unbelievable. A little noisier, But that's because it's been used on a Zenith probably over the years,
It's like the gimbal tone arm, the Fat Boy. How many iterations before you settled on
Oh, a whole bunch. You know,
Wow.
the Fat Boy name wasn't even supposed to be the name. This was supposed to be the Titan tone arm. The reason we started to do that, we launched the Titan turntable. I'm in Hong Kong. I'm with my distributor, Ernest Lau. And it was so funny. The guy, he's like Yoda and when he talks. And he was just like, see your table? Like, yeah, it's like tone arm missed leg day. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, you're right.
Tone arm what?
The tone arm missed, like, everybody they'll get all strong with their arms and everything else. They missed, train out their legs. The Titan was just this behemoth of a product. Then we had that little thin tone arm. And that's where he had commented the fact that it's not robust. It's not what it could be. And so it was like, yeah, and then that kind of brought back to the original arm that Dad was working on. And so we made it. It was supposed to be the Titan tone arm. And the first prototype we got in, the 3D printer we were working with, they didn't care about the name. They just wanted to make sure they didn't screw up. So some guy in the back called it the Fat Boy. And
Really?
so actually this all happened because we were launching the Prime Signature. That's where this all happened. We're doing a proper press event. Stereophile was present. Everyone was present. I'm launching the Prime Signature. We're all excited. We have this prototype. Out of nowhere, Dad pops out with the prototype, which I still have over in my basement. Guys, check this out. This is the Fat Boy. We're going to launch this soon. I'm like, Dad, no.
Oh, yeah.
And it went from being the Titan tone arm to the Fat Boy.
To the factory.
How do you know when you're done prototyping? When it sounds like the tape?
Couple of things. First, it's sonically, yes, that's first.
Right.
Now the Fat Boy, and I'm going to be honest, I feel I made a mistake on this one. The first iteration of the Fat Boy, the back was a thread. It was just a thread, and the counterweight screwed on. You locked it in. That's what Harry wanted because less vibration, less pieces, less vibration. I brought it to Munich. You go back at the show reports. I think even Stereophile did something on this. All of the show reports show a Fat Boy arm with a threaded counterweight. And then, I won't say who, one of my distributors said, looks like an open thread. Doesn't look finished to me. I can't sell it. So now I've got this doubt, like, oh my God. Of course, I'm talking to Dad in Munich, and he's just like, ignore them, it's perfect. Then I start asking my other distributors, oh, come to think of it, Matt, you're right. So we take the feedback. Now, sonically, I don't know if it was the right decision. You see a lot of tone arms doing that now. And that was a great approach. But to our customer, to our distributors, to our dealers, they felt that the look wasn't right. That's why we really take a lot of feedback seriously. Then I came back and then it was like, oh, what should we do and whatnot? And we're still really proud of what we had. It's got that fine tune and we made it exactly as it was asked for. An easy experience.
Very easy to use.
Yes.
Right.
But the other way was better.
Interesting.
Less parts. The
Give the
less
people what they
parts,
Yeah.
the better the arm sounds.
Yeah. And that's no takeaway from the existing Fat Boy over there. It's all just different.
Sounds great. It's just the other way, I think, would have been better.
So Harry, you've pulled up a bunch of different tone arms. Tell me what we have here.
Okay.
Wow, where did they come from?
This is my favorite arm of all time. I would have liked it with the Fat Boy on it, but that didn't exist then. What you can do with this is you can have the arm. It's a yoke, so it's like a gimbal almost, and you loosen this, pull this out, and you change tone arms.
Yep. We actually showed it at the
Not a
Capitol Audio
unipivot.
Fest show.
I had this at the Capitol Audio show, and I don't know, we just never made it. You just put that in, tighten that, and you're all set.
Yep.
And that's the threaded thing I wanted to do. So you just turn the weight on there, less parts.
Yep.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe you guys will be seeing something like that in the near future.
And we make gimbals, all kinds. This is a stainless steel gimbal. We make them out of aluminum also. They all sound different.
I guess aluminum's lighter.
It's lighter,
Mm-hmm.
also sounds different.
Of course.
And
Everything
this
has
is
an
the old
impact.
unipivot
Ah.
center section. Feel the weight of that.
Yep. And that's just the hub. That's not even finished. That's a
It's just the
raw
hub.
one.
That's
I
what
don't know where the heck you found this one.
sits on
Jeez.
the pin.
Whew.
which is why this never chatters.
Wow, yeah, this one's like
Because
right
the
off
weight
the
on
machine.
it is unbelievable.
Nice.
And then what's that one on the left?
Well, this one here, let me just hit you with this one. This was designed for the Grado cartridge.
Yep.
Specifically for the Grado cartridge.
We had the table called the Classic Companion, and we did that for a while. And then we shifted, that's when we started to shift away from the Classic design. So the only thing that happened with that table was we started making the Prime. People bought Primes, and that was that.
This was a screw on back like that.
Yep.
You could loosen that up, yank this out and take this out, and it was the Fat Boy.
Right.
All kinds of designs. But as it turned out, this is really easy to make. It's very consistent, and it sounds great. Well, it's basically this. It's the same thing.
Not only that, the technology has improved so much.
3D printing.
Yes.
Well, I was going to ask you, what are the benefits of 3D printing?
The big thing of it is that it's dead. It's totally dead quiet. It's just resonance canceling, the shape, the everything, so that the arm just gets out of the way and lets the cartridge do its job. I've had people ask me, Matt, what's the most important part of the system? And I'll tell them the cartridge. And they're like, but you make turntables. Like, yes, that's why though I've got to make a really good turntable and tone arm, because after that cartridge, after that needle drop, everything else can only mess it up in the chain. So that's why with that 3D technology, it's just dead. And there have been reviews about that, whatnot. It's just about how it's quiet between the notes. It has that dynamic sound. And now, actually, I mean, the original days, there was jokes about the arm needing some Viagra, not to get too out there, but because of the heat resistance and whatnot. And I mentioned before about our testing facility. When we originally tested the original 3D arm, we did the heat testing without the resistance, without the weights, the side weights, the counterweights. So it passed all the testing. Then when we redid it with the weights, it had a problem, it had an issue. So we fixed it. So we improved the technology.
Changed the chemical composition.
Yeah. And when people ask me what's it made out of now, I mean, like, I don't mean to be coy. I just really don't know anymore, because it's evolved in the direction that needed from an engineering standpoint. You could, the Fat Boy that is on this arm, you could take that and, well, hey, I am the karate guy. We actually made a pair of nunchucks out of it once. And they're probably the world's greatest and most expensive nunchucks in the world.
Well, how does 3D printing, the process, make it quieter?
Well, the big thing is it being one piece. When it's one piece and how the material component...
Normally, you've got a head shell.
Right.
And an arm tube, and they have to put it together.
Yes.
And the shape, it's not round, it's not square, it's like this. So instead of it bouncing around in there, it gets all broken up. And the other thing is that it's 1,000 layers. It takes
I wasn't saying this stuff.
14 hours to make that arm.
Where do they
More
make
like
the
24.
arms?
So we've got different partners all over. The one that we prefer the most, this was wild. And by the way, apparently she just retired.
Oh.
Karen.
Oh.
That's the person that we know, like, that we've been working with.
I miss
This
her.
lovely woman, Karen, who's been, she made tone arms or material stuff for my parents, mom and dad back in the day. The original 3D printers we were working with, they just didn't understand our market. And that's no negative to them. They just didn't understand the end that, hey guys, this is jewelry. All my supply, I am the worst person with that stuff, because everything to me is like, nope, I see a mark. Nope, I see this. It's like, Matt, you're crazy. I got it from Dad. I'm not crazy. It's not that I'm saying our customers are crazy, but when you're spending this kind of money, that's got to be perfect.
And it's going in a living room. It's not going in a lab.
Oh, yeah.
It's going in a living room. It's got to be perfect.
So if you look at like the early day 3D arms, like if you look closely, you can see those imperfections. You can see those little issues that, oh, sorry, it's 3D. It is what it is.
But why, Matt? Because it's digital. It's a staircase all around. And then that all has to be sanded off.
Yep.
Oh, right,
and then finished. And then painted. It's a staircase.
There's this really cute picture of my wife and I during Halloween. She's dressed as a ladybug, and I don't even know. I think I was dressed as a VPI worker.
I remember that.
And there we are. The pictures of her and me sanding the tone arms. Now then, fortunately, and I'm just going to give this shout out to that person, Karen. She came to us and was talking, and she was looking at the 3D arms, and she's just like, "Oh, Matt, what is this?" Like, she never judged a book by its cover. She's about your age, right, Dad?
Yeah.
Which is very young, very, very young.
Yes. Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, tell me about this technology." And I'm like, "Oh, Karen, this is newfangled technology. You wouldn't know anything." I'm trying to like not talk about that since she does a lot of other fun stuff for us. And then finally, I'm like, "Okay, if you want to know, it's 3D printing, it's X, Y, and Z. We're using these machines." And like, "Oh, yeah, we saw this coming. We bought 6 of those machines or however many." And I'm like, "Oh my God." Because now here's somebody who understands the high level of precision.
Changed the whole thing.
Yeah. We had somebody who understood what it had to be. We weren't fighting our 3D printer. Now we went back to, well, I thought it was cool because now we're talking my administration of VPI. And here I am back with going to our roots with one of our suppliers from back in the good old days when
Wow.
the phones were first being made.
You should make a video of like one of the arms from start to finish. That would be amazing to see.
I think there is one actually.
Really?
Something out there, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But no, we have a lot of fun with this stuff. And to me,
that
though,
comes out, that thing's a mess when that comes out. It's covered in goo.
Right,
Yep.
right. Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Right.
but even with it though, the best part with it, and actually, I'm pausing because I'm not even sure if it comes out like that anymore because of how
right.
the technology has changed.
It's so long.
The thing about us, and this is where you're looking at the shareholders, you're looking at the board. It's Harry and me.
Right.
So when technology changes, we just do it. We don't go and have a meeting. I mean, we do. We'll be, talk and discuss and things like that. But I love that idea that when technology improves, we don't stop and try to sell a new one to everybody. We put it right into the product. We transition it in. We have it out there. Then a year later, we say something like, "Oh my God, I want that." You already have it. That's in your table. I like the idea of everyone having the latest and greatest without having to then suddenly trade their arm or buy a new arm or whatever. So our 3D technology has evolved in the sense that now, more heat resistant than ever. Frankly, I think it's even quieter now in the sense of just how durable and rigid. Some reviewers, they go back and forth, 9-inch, 12-inch, 9-inch, whatever. This material is so rigid, 9, 12, they're both just built like tanks.
Wow. For a left turn, have any of your products failed, and why so?
I'd say the biggest failure, and I'll bet you're not going to guess the one. You can throw one out there, but to me, the VPI Cliffwood headphone amp. Yeah, no one even heard about that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Now that, and I'll admit it, that was an ego thing. I did it because I wanted to. It was a whole big thing. We started to do it. And that's when I saw right then and there, you got to stay in your lane. I mean, not that you have to. A lot of companies do their own things. We've done amplifiers as special runs. A special run for a purpose to me makes sense. But VPI making a headphone amp didn't make sense. We started making it. Fortunately, I got some sense knocked into me pretty quickly. I was just like, this. You probably even know, we launched it at Capital. We started making them. We tried to sell them. And immediately, my dealers were like, "Hey, a VPI headphone. What are you doing?"
It seems like it makes sense. I think of a turntable as a very personal item, as are headphones.
True.
It would seem to make sense. So why do you think, I'm sure it sounded great, why do you think it failed?
So it made sense in the table. So the headphone amp was
Built
in
in
the
the
player.
turntable.
Yes. When it was built in the table, we have sold thousands of players because it's ready to use out of the box. Headphone amp, phono, built in.
In the turntable?
In the turntable.
Now, a success.
We still make it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. It's still out
sells.
there. 100%. Oh, yeah. It's and we've done things as far as shifting it from a marketing and branding standpoint of hitting that younger audience. But at the same time, we're not trying to go super entry level. There's other brands that do an amazing job with that. We don't need to play in that sandbox. But we found that with the headphone amp, with the table, 100% people wanted it. When we pulled the units out, now there's a phono station in that player, the Cliffwood Phono. That guy, we do the worst job even talking about that. I don't think we have a single review. I don't think we've It's like the redheaded
we just don't
stepchild.
do it, yeah.
But the Cliffwood Phono sells like hotcakes. It's a $450 moving magnet phono that just works. We tell everybody it works, it gets the job done, we're good. That sells. The headphone amp, nobody cared about. And I didn't even try to fight it. That's when I realized, yeah, you know what? We make turntables. A phono stage makes sense because you need a phono stage to sell a turntable. But you don't need a headphone amp to sell a turntable or be part of a turntable. That's a different niche. Now, if we made headphones, that's a whole other animal.
We're not making headphones.
No, we are. And that's where, I mean, if brands want to do stuff, then maybe do something different. Like I always use the example of Honda and Hyundai having two different brands or something like that. But I don't know, maybe that's something my kids can do.
Interesting.
Which product would you say was a failure? And maybe it's a product I don't even know about. Not the
Thinking. Oh, we made a 19 to match the HW17.
I didn't even know this.
HW17 was beige and walnut. And we made a 19 beige and walnut. And we sold about 10 of them because everybody wanted oak, walnut, and black.
That actually sounds, that beige and that combo sounds pretty ugly, Dad.
It was pretty ugly, but it did match the 17. Yeah. So if you had the cleaning machine, this was next to it, they were a nice match. I thought it was a nice match. I'm kind of an industrial guy, so that looked really nice to me, but not in the living room, I guess.
Ken, I've seen almost every iteration of my dad's products. I have never even seen that. If anyone out there has a beige 19, post a picture. Throw that in the comments.
Regardless of price point, what makes a great turntable? What are the essential elements that a great turntable must have?
3 things. It's got to literally not be there. It's got to have no noise. And I mean noise in the audio band. It's got to have no noise in the audio band. That's the number one thing that you hear, because the cartridge is really stupid. It can't separate, noise from the record. It just reproduces it.
Right.
Wow, flutter. I mean, we've gotten that really low. Belt drives are really low. Not as good as these things, but they're really low. I don't think that's really an issue. Now, the other thing is dynamic torque. You've got to be able to instantaneously make up that drum hit. Okay, let's call it that, because that's probably the worst. On that 45 RPM record from Crystal Clear, or maybe it's M&K, whack that drum, and belt drive just doesn't quite do it. Yeah, if the platter is 50 pounds, it'll do it. If there's enough mass. But this thing instantaneously provides up to 13 amps to keep that going. Instantaneously. So I can hear that difference. I'm sure you can hear it too. It just has that jump factor.
So it has to be quiet.
Actually, rim drive has that too.
Yeah.
Right.
The bass and rim
Definitely.
drive.
The same thing.
Definitely.
Belt drive, no matter what you do, it's a belt. It's got to have that extension and then compression and then extension and then compression. Now, back in the old days, Reco-Cut used to use a fiber belt that didn't give. There was no give whatsoever. You had to actually, turn the motor screw and make it tight. And then when you had to change speed, you had to readjust the thing. That worked beautifusly, but customers aren't going to deal with that.
Well, that kind of touches upon another thing that I feel like is important for a turntable. Usability. That fact that, I let everybody touch the turntables. My daughter, she's 6 now, but when she was 4 years old, she learned how to cue up a table. Now, I mean, it's a player, the one I mentioned with the headphone amp and phono, it's a gimbal, and actually, now that she's older, she's always asking me, how come it's not a Shyla cartridge, Dad? And I was like, well, sweetie, that's because of Shyla. Your cartridge is $2,000. That's a $100 Shirley cartridge named after my grandma. But, you know, just that usability that my 4-year-old can drop that needle. If a turntable is too intimidating or if it's too dainty. Now, that's no disrespect to anyone's design. If an engineer feels or the designer of a turntable feels whatever X is needs to be that way, fine. I respect that. But to us, if you have to like use kid gloves to even touch it, that's not an inviting thing.
The best example was, used to go out to Seacliff all the time, Harry Pearson's house.
I know this one.
This is good. You were there with me.
God, that was weird.
Go out there. Oh, Harry, I really want to hear that one. It's not working today. And then I would come out the next time. I'd really like to hear this one now.
Not a cheap table. Not a cheap table.
Not working today. Not working today. We would always listen to one of my turntables that were there because they worked every day. He would have these exotic turntables out there. Half the time, they didn't work. Literally, half the time. Because they had air compressors on the arm, air compressors on the bearing, air compressors on the vacuum holding it down. None of it worked. It kept breaking. You know why I love Macintosh? No insult to anybody else. I just love Macintosh because I walk in here and I hit the button and I know it's going to turn on.
Yep.
And it always turns on. Because as I used to tell Harry all the time, it can't sound good if it doesn't start. It's got to
Right.
start first.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was another thing. I used to tell Harry, he used to say, you hear these speakers? They're amazing. I can't believe these speakers. I said, Harry, you don't understand. The speaker didn't screw up what the turntable gave it. It can't make it any better than what is coming off that turntable. And he would think of me, he would sit there and think about that. And he was like, yeah, actually, you're right. It all begins there.
So it has to be quiet. It has to be dynamic.
Quiet. It has to
It
be
has to have
dynamic.
high usability.
High usability.
And durability, I would say.
Which is what turntables had back in the day when everybody had turntables.
Right.
It's sort of like getting that way
Yep.
again.
Right.
Why is it, I have a TD124 and you lift the platter off and they look like watches.
Yes.
Why don't we make turntables like that
We don't
now?
make
a lot
them
of
like that
parts.
anymore.
We don't need to do that?
You can't get the parts made, number one. Everything is a real pain in the ass to get made now. But
It'd be too cost
you
prohibitive
don't really
to
need it anymore.
you
You really don't.
it'd be cost prohibitive to 3D print everything inside of one of those tables.
What they used 1800 RPM squirrel cage motors, or there was what's the other kind that they used to use? Anyways, it was 1800 RPM motors because they didn't really have 300 and 600 RPM synchronous motors that could move that load.
Huh.
We do now. I mean, we have a 600 RPM motor that we used to use on our rim drive. It was phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah, because they're real powerful now. Back then, they had to use, what's the name of that motor again? I can't remember.
Never heard squirrel cage.
Yeah, that's a type of motor. And,
Milan motors.
oh my God, I can't remember it. Shaded pole motors. That's what they used to use.
I don't even know what that is. Before my time.
1800 RPM shaded pole motors were really big in turntables. And then Benjamin Miracord they came out with a hysteresis synchronous motor. But that was also 1800 RPMs. It's too high. 1800 RPMs is 30 hertz. You can hear that. Wow. A 300 RPM motor is 5 hertz. You can't hear it. You can't even reproduce it.
Huh.
Yeah, that's why they're so quiet now.
What is it about those TD124s and 301s that give them that sense of drive?
It's the rim drive.
It is the rim drive.
It is the rim drive. In fact, sit.
You see, this is exactly why I love the dynamic of our company. My dad comes in, my kids come in. Like I've got I got my karate students in there. I like to invite people in. I like people to learn and do this stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And look how excited he is. He keeps
VPI Super Scoutmaster Reference Rim Drive Turntable.
Stereophile. Hey, look at
Product
that.
of the year.
What year is that?
Rim Drive. 2009.
Huh.
I loved making this turntable.
He's just ripping
Why
stuff
we
off the
stopped
wall
making
now.
it? Because customers went crazy with the rim drive.
Yeah.
They didn't stop futzing around with it.
Flat tires, they'd keep it
I see
on
that.
there. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a rim drive.
oh
Two
wow.
600 RPM motors.
Wow.
This table sounds amazing.
I bet.
This table used to be by HP's house all the time.
Stephen Mejias and
When-
Michael Fremer.
When the giant Clear Audio 700-pound table wasn't working, this was playing. When the Rockport wasn't working,
Damn.
this was working.
I'd love to hear one of those.
Oh, I'd love
We
to
got
get
'em.
one of these.
Wow,
I
that
could
is
actually
wild.
build one if you wanted it.
Oh.
And I love that. And actually, like later we go over to the factory, you'll even see a bunch. I've got my guys that just do the consistent stuff. These are the orders. This is the product line. This is what we do. Then I got this guy Howie. He's been around for the past 4 years, I would say, and I actually know him from back in the day. And he loves working with my dad. They'll grab two chassis, put them together. I'll always look at it like, oh, geez, I can think of a couple of distributors that would hate to see that.
I love that.
But the excitement, the energy in doing this, just like being able to play. Because there's some people out there, they don't want a standard VPI. They don't want a standard anything. They want something cool. And I just always love that fact that you can hot rod it. A lot of my education of learning how to even do turntables in general was just messing with my dad's stuff. The past year, actually, because I had this HW19 in the basement, and I took it out, and I was really messing with it. And I'm like, oh my God, this arm board. Look how cool this arm board is. You can swap the arm board and have your tone arm, whether it's a VPI, an Audio Quest. I know you used a lot of Audio Quests back in the day.
Used to flop
Yeah.
them around.
Rega, triplanar.
There's another one in there from Watt Hi-Fi that says the true reference. It's a Titan rim drive.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What hi-fi in Thailand.
We used to make rim drives all the time.
And
Yeah.
you stopped why?
Well, we still do.
We
But-
can still make it.
We kind of like with the gimbal. The standard used to be unipivot. But now here's the other thing. Again, from customer feedback, reviewer feedback. In the past, the standard was the uni. But if you requested a gimbal, no price difference. We just put the gimbal on. But then we found that everyone was requesting the gimbal. So if the special one is requested more than the standard, well, then we got to flip the script. Same thing with the rim drive, where we're finding that people. Actually, what's really wild, there's this one dealer, he loves the look of 3 belts. I got into an argument with him, and not a heavy one, but I said, well, the rim, that's kind of the standard. It's like, oh, it looks cool as hell, Matt. It's got to have the belt. I tried to get him in on the Titan Direct because this is like one of those dealers where cost is no object.
Wow.
And I mean, I personally think the Titan Direct, if you could go toe to
Tell
toe.
them about the Ernie Lau.
Oh, it wasn't Ernie. No, it was Woody.
Woody and
I'll keep the names out.
yeah, no names.
Except for the ones we mentioned. We're doing a listening session. We had the JBL Everest full Macintosh system. We had a unipivot. The unipivot was also great for swapping those arms.
Right.
So Dad had one of it was a prototype, but it was one of the prototype Fat Boys with a Lyra Atlas. We had it was Titan level. It was a direct drive versus a rim drive. We listened, we went back and forth, and by
Same
the time
system.
we're done, same everything. And we had our gentleman from Singapore, we had our gentleman from Thailand, and we get done listening, and it's like, yes, I know which is the best. Yes, this 100%. The rim drive's the best. What are you talking about? What, do you have no ears? The direct drive's the best. Oh, you're too old. And they just started fighting.
You're too
and,
old.
and they were kidding, but still I'm looking at Dad, and I'm just like, because it was so close. It was different.
It's
I'll
a little
give it
bit
that.
different. The rim drive is a little bit different than the
Yeah.
direct drive.
Of course.
But they're both fabulous.
They were world class. And these two, you would think it was just like, water and ice or solid state and tubes. I'm kidding. We'll get there.
I'll go there. What is currently your best-selling product?
So, on one hand, it's our Prime 21.
Which lists for
That's 5,500. That, and again, we always like the products that are bang for the buck, or at least that's always been. I feel like what mom and dad built the whole paradigm of the company, of having that product that's attainable and can punch above its price point. So the Prime 21 is definitely one of our big sellers, but recently we've just seen an uptick in they don't sell as many as like a Prime 21 or even a Signature, Scout or Signature 21. The Scout 21 being 3,000, the Prime 21 being 5,500.
Do those prices include a tone arm?
Yes, always, always. I'm sorry. If it's being advertised, I'm going to have a moment where I'm going to pretend I'm retired. I got into an argument with somebody once where the marketing of this turntable was, $4,000 turntable. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a heck of a contender. Look at this table. And I'm like, that's a triplanar arm. I think it was like an $8,000 arm. I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's not a $4,000 table. That's a $13,000 table. And then the argument I got into about like, oh no, it's totally the same. Like, that's a $4,000 Lazy Susan.
Right.
Because if you have a turntable with no tone arm, it's a Lazy Susan, you know? And again, I don't mean to be insulting, but market it the right way. Market it as turntable, tone arm not included. Don't say $4,000.
Right.
This was a couple of years back. And, so that stuff gets me a little bit. But recently, in the past, I want to say 2 years, we've seen a major uptick in this guy over here, the Avenger Direct. So maybe because of reviewers like you. But no, it's we've noticed that we don't sell them like we sell Prime 21s, but on an overall ratio. And I like to think it's because, again, the consistency, the history, the 45 years of business, the warranty.
Family business.
Yeah.
You know who these people are.
And what really bothers me, and I don't mean to talk about the things that bother me, I talk about the good things. I don't like when a customer gets shafted because, oh, we're sorry, Ken, I can't replace that. That's a legacy item. Okay, well, what's my replacement? There is none. You have to buy a brand new product. We sold a Titan once. And again, that's at the time, it was like 50,000, I think, at the time. And a customer bought it almost sight unseen. The dealer brought the customer down. We came here, we had it all set. We're always helpful with that to give a customer a good experience. And we didn't even get that far. We didn't even listen to it yet. And the guy was like, okay. I said, well, listen, whatever you do, it's all good. We're a family business. We're not going anywhere for 20 years. All the parts are replaceable. Done. Then the rest of the day was just hanging out. We went to Evans. That's the Greek place that you guys will probably be able to go to a little later. We had a gyro. We listened to music.
We get HW19s in, built in 1982, 3, 4. We fix them.
Yeah. So you have parts for all your legacy tables.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every turntable.
There's items that just don't exist anymore just because that's usually on the electronic side. A PLC, we can either fix it or it's dead. There are certain. We had a customer the other day.
They don't make the chips anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then if it's a mechanical item, we make it still.
Yeah. But then in that case, if it's a PLC, for example, then we'll help them out. We'll give them a trade-in value, even though we shouldn't, in the sense of, no, that's dead. Because we'll take the PLC. We can't do anything with it, but we feel bad.
So that's one of the secrets to your success. People can get all their old turntables fixed.
Yeah.
What else do you think, or without going too far down that rabbit hole, what are the other keys to the VPI's overwhelming success?
We've got a lot of really good reviews over the years. I mean,
that helps.
A lot of really good reviews.
Yeah.
It was in Class A. God, we had 3 tables in Class A for years.
Reviews matter.
Well, yes, but the other thing is also accessibility. Not always. Especially since the kids, dad being retired, whatnot. But if you call VPI, you might actually get me on the phone.
Well, that was one of my questions. If I call VPI, will someone answer the phone?
Oh yeah. If someone's not answering the phone, that's because they're all on the phone. So it's a and then we'll get back to people and everything and whatnot. But there was a moment. One of our dealers called. He called me up. It was a Sunday. I'm building a playground for my kids. Yeah. It's my wife and I, some family friends. We're doing this stuff. The dealer calls and he said, "Hey, I got this guy. He's really thinking about Adventure Direct. He's got some questions. The Adventure Direct was really new. No anything. It was just, we showed it at Capitol.
Right.
That was the extent of it. I said, okay, well, send him my number. Like, really? It's like, well, hey, if he has some questions, let me answer it. So I answered the question. Actually, I really didn't answer that many questions. The guy was just kind of like, oh my God, it's a Sunday. You're talking to me. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't care if you got a player. And I know Dad feels the same because, Mom would talk to somebody,
Yeah.
whether they had a cleaning machine or if they had a TNT or whatever the high, dollar item was. We don't care if it's a high dollar item. You're part of the family. We're just like every family, might be a little messed up, but we like to take care of each other.
I have customers that text me and they email, or all over the country they email me.
We try to be as accessible as possible. We can't be everywhere, but like the Facebook group, we didn't even make this group. There's this group. I love my VPI turntables made by customers. It's great, and they just hang out, they talk, and we
Right.
respond when we can.
That's great.
We try, and we actually
Yeah, I
share the
answer
albums.
stuff on there.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of that where you call up and the girl who answers is my wife, Jane, and which I really love that. I think it's so cool that there's still a Mrs. Weisfeld in the office. My mom ran the
Right,
office. A lot of people don't like working with their spouses. Mom and Dad made it work. My wife and I, Jane, man, it's the best thing. Actually, recently, and we just wrapped that up with our third child. She's starting to come back. Well, thank you. It's I got my son. I got Shyla. I got Goldie. I got baby John. I guess we need another cartridge.
Oh, no.
But so, hey, that might be a little hint. But nonetheless, recently she started coming back. I love it. I love knowing like my kids are there. Sometimes we set them up with little parts and whatnot. I love that it's always someone in the family who's part of it. And when they answer the phone, we care.
Yeah, people can put faces to the company names.
Yeah.
Well, if you could take me through without spending too much time,
Sure.
give me like a quick hit description of your different tables: Clifford,
Sure.
Player, Production, Scout 21, Prime 21, Signature 21, Reference, Adventure, Adventure Plus.
So I'll make it easy. We have 3 lines. We have the Cliffwood series, the Performance series, and the Reference series. Cliffwood is all about entry level. It's just having a nice, easy experience into the musical world. Cliffwood, that is cartridge built in. It's mounted. No electronics. Cliffwood table, machined aluminum platter, machined aluminum tone arm, and a Shirley cartridge moving magnet made in partnership with Audio-Technica. The Player, same animal, built-in headphone amp, built-in phono stage, Cliffwood series. And that's between the range of, and with the Cliffwood phono as well out there as an option of, I want to say 1,500 to 2,500 in that range, also depending upon finishes and wacky stuff. Performance series, Scout 21, Prime 21, Signature 21. Now we started with the Prime 21 because that whole series was supposed to have a different type of evolution, but then COVID happened.
Right.
So instead of doing the original plan, we ended up taking the feedback and creating the Prime 21 at the $5,500 price point. But so then after that, then we trickle down the technology. Then we have the Scout 21 at $3,500, the Prime 21 at $5,500. And then actually recently, we added another one called the Signature DS, just because it's been tough times, economy-wise and everything else. It's so bringing that technology of the Signature down into a $6,500 deck of having that rosewood and gloss finish, but at a little bit
stack.
more. Yeah,
On the chassis.
DS double stack.
Nice.
And then above it is our Signature 21 at the $9,000 range, pending upon standard finish or rosewood. The Signature DS is with our standard arm. The Signature 21 is with the Fat Boy arm on there. All of these tables are using the HW40 feet. Now that's an upgrade we made across the board because of COVID. We had an issue with getting our supplies for the feet that were not as well in isolation. So we said, to heck with it. Put an HW40 feet on every turntable. I know a lot of people would say, no, sell them the cheaper foot. We'll sell them the upgrade later.
Right.
I'd rather you have a good experience right out of the gate and not have to worry. That wraps up the Performance series. All of those tables, so we're starting at $3,500, you're capping at $9,000. I feel anything under 10, you're still in that realm of attainable, of getting to that point and just getting to that. Then we have our reference series, Avenger, Avenger Plus. Well, they're all tables that look like our friend back here, going on the idea of a sandbox. That's really what it is. It's a sandbox line where you can have 1 arm, 2 arm, belt drive, rim drive, direct drive if you go up high enough. So Avenger, Avenger Plus, Avenger Reference, Avenger Direct. Of course, then the starting one with the belt, Plus and Reference with rim drive, or belt if you choose, and then the Avenger Direct with the direct drive. But the reason we did this is because, again, it's your listening experience. The gentleman we mentioned before, the one from Singapore, he bought the direct drive. The one from Thailand, well, you guys saw the cover. It's up there. He bought the rim drive. And that's fine. We're at a point where we don't understand these guys who fight over, what? You've got a direct drive. You've got a belt drive. No. Gimbal, unipivot, do your own thing. Then the tie-in. The tie-in is just the engineering of a standard Avenger, double stacked again. You have the cartridge is 2 turntables away from the rest of the world. That's where you have the air suspension.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's a really cool look from a robust standpoint.
What's the price range of the entry-level line?
Oh, that's $1,500 and then caps at $2,500.
That's great. And with all these tables, and how do you all fix a price for a product?
Times 5. Oh, I shouldn't say that because we times by 5, but then we look at that number. Some of our products are more like times 4 or times 3.
Yeah, the lower priced ones.
Yeah.
Go back to what the times for what?
Oh, so it's BOM, bill of material. And again, these are the things where it's just like, don't say it. This is like the unspoken rule of having an honest product. Because times 5, you have, when the bill of material covers everything, the packaging, the manual, the labor, the research and development, whatever it might be. And then the times 5 factor is to cover for warranty, the everything can go wrong. The show, I mean, every table that goes to an audio show gets destroyed. And frankly, not in your case, Ken, but some of these, we got
a dealer.
Yeah.
What about the dealers in there?
Yeah, you know, because the dealer they've got to make their piece. They have to be able to keep the lights on.
Of course.
Now with us, and Dad always taught me that idea of that. Whatever you do in life, make sure you keep the lights on. Make sure everyone's getting a fair salary, fair wages, and then make sure you get an honest product out to the customer that they can wrap their mind around.
Let's remember one other thing. All the people that work for us, they get medical, retirement, unemployment insurance.
Yep.
All the things that you have to do in New Jersey.
Yeah.
As opposed to paying people fish heads and rice.
I mean, there's that.
And that's what happens.
And how many people on your staff in New Jersey?
It ranges between, I would say between 10 and 15, depending upon. But the thing is,
a year.
Right.
yeah, you know, and then, and I'm really easygoing about it, and maybe to a fault, because I really feel that like there are more important things than building turntables. You know, in the sense that like, hey, you gotta go pick up your kids. You got, like, I know some companies like, oh, you're getting a demerit. I don't believe in that. We have conversations. We're like, hey, Ken, we haven't seen you in a while. Like, what's going on? Can we help? Can we this? Can we that? Do you need more training? How can we help you? What can we do to make your job better so that you're going to want to build more turntables?
Wow.
And what I really like, and I don't know if I'm diving ahead into any questions, but we have the capability to machine everything at our site, but we purposely don't.
Why is that?
Because at the end of the day, I love the idea of all the jobs. We've got 15 people that work for us, 10 to 15, depending upon the given time. But we really don't. We actually have hundreds of people that work for us. The woodworker, who's got their people. Our woodworker has, they have to have at least 20 or 30 people when I've been there. Our different machine shops. We've got various machine shops. Bud and Ellen, my God, the family-owned company, they have been machining stuff for us since I was in the middle.
Years.
Easily.
Wow.
Easily,
They're all over
25
the
years.
US.
Yeah. Most of them are like in the majority of them are driving distance.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah, this guy
No
Mark.
kidding.
Yeah. Oh yeah, his factory. He's got a factory. It's got to be like what 15,000 square feet.
No, 28,000.
Okay, there you go. He's got
28,000 feet.
And I mean, he's got about 50, 60 people that work there, and the majority of what they do is working on VPI products and parts.
And you know why we do that, Ken? Because then you know what something costs.
Yep.
If you make it, you have no idea what it cost.
Yeah.
And I used to work for a sheet metal company with 700 people working there. He had no idea if he made money. He had no clue till the end of the year.
And there's accountability, because if I just suddenly decide to start cutting down trees in the backyard and I start to like make my own chassis, well, am I doing it the right way? Is it safe? Is there bugs? Is there X, Y, and Z with it? And to me also, again, what's the actual cost? Whereas with my woodworker, I can go to my woodworker and say, hey, Tim, we had a problem. Actually, we had it the other day where something was a little off. I wasn't sure. I reached out. I was like, oh, man, Matt, send that back. We'll fix that, and we'll make that right. I like the idea of going to the experts with our cartridges.
Right.
You know, we work with Audio Technica on that. I really don't understand it when companies hide their partners. Like, oh, yes, we make our own cartridge. Really? I thought Audio Technica. Don't say
make your own
that.
cartridge.
We don't. We collaborated with them. Actually, our national sales director, Bill Petit, formerly with Audio Technica, without him, we wouldn't have had a Shiloh cartridge. You know, he made that connection with the right people at Audio Technica, where I was able to get that sit down with Harry, the Ozawa, and all the people we needed at the unit. We had a conversation. It's funny, I said, hey, I'm just here to make sure that it happens. Listen to what this guy has to say. Harry made his notes of the dampening changes and the things that he wanted that were important to him from a sonic signature. We used the Art 9 as a base. People are like, don't say that. No, we are. Because we auditioned so many cartridges.
The Art 9's a great cartridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people are like, you know, in a nutshell, I'm like, think of the Shiloh as the Art 9 on steroids and with the VPI DNA to it. We love the mid-range. The mid-range is what we all deal with in our sound band.
Steve Lawrence has to be in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are all specialists.
Yeah.
So the 3D printer is somewhere like within driving distance?
Actually,
In Ohio.
Yeah,
In Ohio.
In some cases.
And do the same people make the platter and the plinth and the feet?
Nope.
They're all different.
That's in Jersey.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's all in America. I mean, hey, there are parts that just can't be sourced in America.
Right.
There's no such thing as an American magnet that I know of. You know, I mean,
You can't get magnets here.
Yeah. Now, it might be the raw material might be brought here and then machined and done over here with that respect. But that's where, you know, we're the experts in building turntables and making, designing, and putting it together. Now, over there, I mean, we've got the lathes and the drill presses, the machinery to do it. But then there's also a safety factor. You know, the insurance, the training, the technicians with that.
There's the environmental thing also.
Oh, yeah. You can't
You
paint
start
anything in
doing that
Jersey.
here, it's a whole, you know, they come in and they do an EPA survey on you.
Yeah. I want my, yeah.
If you assemble it, it's completely different.
Doesn't it cost you more ultimately, though, to have all these suppliers, essentially?
See, that's the thing. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because when you have people working, doing this work, okay, number one, the lathe will cost you $50,000. Okay, how does that factor in? Then you got the guy, at least $40 an hour he's going to cost you.
For that, he's a specialist.
You know, when you add in everything in there, you know, all this stuff, it adds up like crazy. And then you still don't know what that part really costs you. He goes to the bathroom, it costs $40.
Wait, no, the 3D. We almost bought
right.
this. We
really did.
dodged a bullet. This almost happened. I wanted to buy a 3D printer, like the full-blown one.
That would make sense, you'd think.
Yep. And I was talking to, this was with the old printers, because I believe our original suppliers didn't really want to make the part. I think they wanted to sell us the machine. And the guy got me finally, because this machine, when it started, was like $1 million machine. Yeah. He had me for a show demo, on the road, beaten up, only one color, and it was down to like $150,000. So now, like, oh my God, that's it. Let's do this. It's the day I'm going to sign the paper to do this. We get a batch of 50 arms in. All 50 of them were bent.
Wow.
Now, I was able to turn around and say, hey guys, these are not the spec. These are wrong. And I was able to send them back. Now, they weren't very happy with me, I'm sure. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry. Ah, damn it. But still, it was wrong.
Right.
What do I do? And they made right, and it took some time and everything else, and that got replaced and taken care of at no expense of VPI. I'm sure maybe they worked it in with an extra $1 here and there later on. But now, what would happen if my guy in the back printed 30 of them, 50 of them wrong?
Wow.
I've got 50 dead arms.
Wow.
And what do? You beat the guy? It's like
You can't do anything about it.
in
right.
that moment, because I was about to drop $150 some odd $1,000 for the machine, and that killed the deal.
Wow.
So that's why there's that. There's accountability. There's having the expert. There's also that being able to hold them to that level.
Yeah, that to maintain the QC, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Where it's just like, nope. And we, one of our other wood suppliers, they had a packaging issue. There was a shipping issue. There was a problem. It went right back. No problem. The rep was actually here this morning discussing about it, and they just made it right.
We used to joke about it. We used to get in these aluminum chassis. You could stack them up 50 high, look down, one hole, and see the ground.
Right.
Because they're exactly right.
Wow. Yeah.
Because these guys know what they're doing.
But still, I like that idea that in reality, VPI has probably created hundreds of jobs. There are
No
divisions that are just dedicated to this
Yeah.
stuff. Some of these companies are, like one of our machine shops does work for Siemens and Procter & Gamble. They love working with us because it's cool.
And they get paid.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, they don't get the
Right.
180-day terms.
Yeah, yeah.
We already sort of discussed the social media aspect, but you promote and it seems to come naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of learned it years ago. There was a dealer situation. We tried to offload some of this onto a different person, onto a salesperson. And we have a sales guy. We have that stuff now. And, the dealer was like, oh, hey, can Harry come? No, Harry's not feeling good. Oh, can you come? I wasn't planning on it. You know what, then let's skip the event. I like being part of it. I like us being part of it. The social media, 9 times out of 10, it's me. It's, well, anything my dad does, he just goes on there and throws it as him. We like to be in the trenches with it, and we like to be able to just be accessible, as mentioned before. And we hit all the platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Are you on Threads?
We are. We actually
Okay.
are on Threads. I don't post enough on there, but we're on Threads. We have a YouTube channel because if one person gets to learn about VPI, even if they don't buy a VPI, I probably shouldn't say it, but I actually sold a Rega once. I was at the dealer's store. This was a wild
I
situation.
remember this.
I'm down in Georgia at the dealer's event, and the couple, it was this nice young couple. They don't know who the heck I am. I'm wearing a polo, and I look like I know what I'm doing. And it was a really nice event. There was 3 different systems, one for one brand, one for VPI, and then one had a Rega. I'm walking through, and the couple starts asking me about the system. After 5 seconds, like, okay, these guys are not even close to ready for a VPI. And by the time I was done, the rep came in. He's like, what did you do? I thought you were going to do something. Like, they're not getting a VPI. Like, why'd you sell the Rega? It's like, because it's a great table for what it is. Let them have a good experience.
Right.
Let the customer learn about vinyl, learn about a turntable, and then love it. Because if that customer has a bad first experience, they're never buying a VPI.
Right.
And you got to be honest about your product. And I'm sure Mark's gonna have to edit a lot of this out because we just go on and on over here.
I hope not.
But well, thank you. I hope so. We had a situation. It was a 3D arm. One of the first iterations. This guy was trying to put the 3D arm on his Classic 3. It was a Rosewood Classic 3. It wasn't where we sent it to him.
It's a beautiful turntable.
Oh yeah, it didn't work. We sent him another one. Didn't work. Finally, and this was my fault. I just didn't know enough about the different iterations, and that's when I found out he was right. We had made a mistake for that type, and not necessarily a mistake, but we didn't give him the tools he needed. And he was like, you know what? F this, I'm out. Put his table on eBay. About 3 months later, I sent him an email saying, hey, I know you hate us. I know our table went on eBay. It is what it is, but I want you to know we fixed it. We made that change. No one's ever going to have that problem again. came back and bought an HRX.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
And then later on, he ended up buying an HW40. And the response he gave was, I can't believe you listened. But I look at it.
That was the lump in the bearing
Yeah.
that they couldn't put it on the older versions of it. It wouldn't fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know enough about it. To me, if you could teach me something that's going to make your life easier, I think I'd be a fool not to listen.
Well, yes, you're
At least try to.
your personality is just so pro the company, and it works for social media. You mentioned Rega, and I think I think of the VPI tables, even the entry level ones, as being sort of overbuilt in mass.
Mm-hmm.
But are your tables? Do they follow the Pratt thing, or do they follow the mass loading to get rid of resonance?
They follow this thing.
What do you mean?
Whatever this sounds like,
That's not what I was gonna say,
that
but yeah.
sounds like.
That's true.
I'm not kidding. It's exactly how we do it. We sit here, listen. I don't know. We have like 9 reel-to-reel machines in this house. You've seen them.
Yeah.
They're all over.
Right.
We use this the most because it's really, really good. And there's a recording engineer that lives right over here. He comes over and he sets this thing up all the time.
Wait, we got to mention his name. His name is Dennis.
Dennis Drake.
Drake. He actually worked for us for a while.
One of the nicest guys you'll
love
ever
him.
meet.
Yep.
He used to work. He has the keys to the Brunswick master tape.
Are we supposed to say that?
Oh, I don't know.
That's okay.
Maybe you have to take that out. I don't know. But
Dennis, if you get in trouble, blame me.
he's the guy that they call Run Me Off Master Tapes for the Basie and the Chilites.
So every table gets compared to tape?
Comes in here.
Every table?
Yes. And it doesn't matter what the system is, because the system is going to play the tape.
Yep.
And it's going to play the turntable. And it's got to be close.
You play it in here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, so there's a couple of things we do. So going to the deeper aspect of it, first there's the measurement factor. If it fails the measurements,
Oh, yeah. Well-
if it fails the certain paradigms of the plus or minus in the precision, the sound quality, how quiet it is, vibration, we've got all sorts of fun tools. If it has to pass all
Got
that
all the wow
first.
flutter meters are
Yep.
at the factory.
Oh yeah, grounding,
all that
everything, and I really married well. My wife Jane. I mean, she's my office manager. I accidentally married an accountant, so that really helped. And she comes over. I'm just dating her. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. She's this great girl, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out QuickBooks. I'm supposed to take her out to lunch, and I'm just like, okay, sweetie, sit here for a minute. I'm going to go do whatever. I come back, and she's just like, oh, you know that you can save $20 a month if you pay this guy at this time and do this? I'm like, do you want to do more of that? But that's not even the biggest thing. Her brother is an electrical engineer. This guy, Ben, he's a man of very few words, and he loves us. I asked him a couple of years back, and I was just like, Ben, what do you want to do with your life? I know you're here helping us, you're doing anything. What do you really want to do? And he said that, he wants to be the electrical engineer for VPI for life, that he wants to take care of the family. And, it felt so good. My dad was working with him yesterday, doing a bunch of things that you might be
Oh, he
seeing
does
very
work for the
soon.
company.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's right over there. And it's so, I love it.
Let me toss this in also. There's about 6 records that the turntable has to pass on. This is one of them. You have to hear 4 brothers. You don't
All
hear
the
3,
time.
you don't hear 2, you have to hear all 4.
What label is that?
This is a 6i Columbia.
Okay.
All 4 brothers have to be heard.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Then, where is it?
I'm always looking for it. The reason I mentioned Ben is he made testing rigs like crazy.
Got to pass this test, guys.
Command stereo.
This is the record. Hernando's Hideaway.
Yep.
You put that on, you know instantly if it's live or it's Memorex. You know instantly.
And the contrabass.
Yes, the contrabass.
My dad plays this this album that has a contrabass. It's really great the first time. It's really fantastic the 10th time. But after about the 50th time, you start to contemplate thoughts in life.
What record is that?
Where's it? Gary Carr
Yeah, Gary Carr.
and his 6-foot contrabass.
It's a fantastic album.
I know. Nobody understands me. Big Iron.
Yeah.
Marty Robbins.
Gunfighter ballads.
I had a guy over here who's an engineer who doesn't understand any of this. He just knows classical music. And he sat down here and I put this on and he was mesmerized. He said, I've never heard a voice like that. Marty Robbins.
Is that 30th Street?
This is Columbia 6I.
So it must be 30th Street.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure.
oh, okay, right.
I don't hear the thing running underneath, but sometimes you might get it.
There you go.
Well, I just have two more questions.
Sure.
And I appreciate you guys giving us all this time and letting me chase these rabbit holes. What tools do you recommend to the average VPI person to align their cartridge and to check the vertical tracking force on their cartridge?
I'd say just use the one that we include with it. Yes, we have an alignment jig. It's based on
It's an
the
aluminum alignment jig.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Denison jig, self-correcting.
Well, that's the big one, like comes with Avenger Direct.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
every table
It
gets
comes with
that.
every table.
It comes with every table?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is again where we're a little crazy, and
That is crazy.
I've had my this is the stuff where my accountant hates me for this stuff. Because there are certain things like, do you really have to give away every one of these? And I hate to say it, but I feel like that answer is yes. Every one of our tables comes with a stylus force gauge, an alignment jig, an azimuth rod, all the screws.
Oh,
and
that's
Allen
right.
wrenches.
The stylus force gauge in that little leather pouch.
Yeah. Now, people choose to use their own stuff, and that's fine. We're not trying to take away, like all those different other things out there. There's nothing wrong with it, but you can get the job done using this.
Right.
If you want to grab a USB, a microscope, a USB microscope, or any of that, that's great.
Don't
Fantastic.
do it. Don't do it. I did it. Don't ever USB microscope your cartridges
Why not?
because you'll kill yourself.
You go nuts, right?
You go out of your mind. You
Just
take a
go
look at
crazy.
it. This thing's off by 1.5 degrees.
Right.
Oh, no.
I wasn't going to go there, but it's so
You
true. And-
really can't go there.
Right. You go crazy.
You go out of your
Yeah.
mind. If you really want to do the next step up, you go by the Autofon stylus gauge, which is really, really good.
It's a great
really,
gauge.
really good. But it's, I don't know if it's more accurate. It's easier
feels
to
nice.
read. It feels good. It's easier to read.
Right,
It's like you
right.
got a real professional thing there. But the one we give you works perfectly. And the alignment jig, I can only tell you that years ago on Vinyl Engine, which is the German big deal,
Right.
they were complaining about my jig. That's only 1 point. It's only this. It's only that. How can it? Da 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 da. And then after all of this, pages of this guy said, "Yeah, I know, but I set it all up, and it sounds wonderful when I use his gauge." That's because I'm a classical record guy. I want the last third of that record to be perfect, and that's where the alignment is.
Oh.
It'll work there too. It's the same thing, but that's going to be exactly right. I want that right because that's where in the Beethoven Ninth, if you don't get that right, you're going to have a problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you give me any more information regarding these upcoming products?
Yes.
B-roll.
What I can say is you'll be seeing it at Capital Audio Fest. We'll be having a nice event coming up, and it's going to be something that will be backwards compatible. I don't like when something new comes out and it throws away everything else. That's not going to do that. Actually, the one thing I can say, 10-year warranty.
Oh, wow.
Because if you're going to throw down, go big or go home. I'm not going anywhere. My kids love this. I'm teaching them. I've got 3 of them. I've got Shyla, Goldie, Baby John, who's not going to be a baby one day. And one day when he looks back, it's like, why'd you call me a baby? But that's the point. They're going to be sitting here 20 years with whatever's happening then. And I like to believe they're still going to be making turntables. So we love this. We're nuts. I last night was talking to a customer at 8 o'clock at night. And we're just that family business that wants to still be here while still appreciating our roots. So 10-year warranty, easy to use, backwards compatible, and the kind of thing that you can grow with your system. And you guys will be seeing it over at Capital Audio Fest. You guys will be getting a little sneak peek a little sooner. And I think you guys will be getting some B-reel of all those prototypes we have in the back there that maybe you have to show at a later video or something.
Very exciting. Well, thank you, Harry. Thank you, Matt.
Well, thank you, Ken,
My
for coming
pleasure.
out here.
We had a lot of fun.